Royal Rumble has come and passed 2021. I believe it was the 25th or 26th edition of the second granddaddy, the step granddaddy of them all here in professional wrestling. And I tell you, tonight was an interesting night. You ever have one of them nights to where you come in with low expectations, even horror coming to mind? You ever have them blind dates where, you hear all the worst, but then it turns out to be something pretty spectacular? That was really tonight's Royal Rumble in Tampa, Florida at Tropicana Field. And we're going to discuss that and more. Did Bill Goldberg, former WCW heavyweight champion, add another victim to his ongoing mantle? Did he become the WWE heavyweight champion? Who won the Women's Royal Rumble? Who won the Men's Royal Rumble? Did we see any surprise returns? Who had star-making performances? By the way, what did Bad Bunny, whatever the hell his name is, what did he wind up doing at the show? I know he was a lot more involved than we think. Also, did we see tag champs? We'll discuss all that and more here on RedGull.com's official Royal Rumble preview and review. I am your host, JP Steele, and joining me at this time are two gentlemen that need no introduction, but you know what? I'm such a smarmy son of a gun. I'm going to give one anything. Anyway, first and foremost, my main man from St. Louis, M.O., home of San Mushnick, home of the St. Louis Cardinals, now home of Nolan Arenado, the new third baseman. Yeah, we're going to talk sports on one of my other shows coming up here soon on Red Gull. But this is going to be all wrestling. My main man himself, host of Sons of Legends, one of the top podcasts in wrestling today, MJ Gunner, Matt Lindsay. Matt, what's going on, my friend?
Yo, JP, what's happening? So glad to be here with you tonight.
It's rare because usually you're hosting a show that I'm the guest on, and now the script is flipped. So, it's going to be cool to, actually continue this banter we have back and forth. When we get on the air together, it's always fun times to be had, my friend. And I know this is going to be no different. But also introducing my other co-host, this gentleman comes from the deep woods of Kentucky, but he's got a pretty expansive wrestling background. And I'm going to let him tell this real quick. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's got some family that once upon a time was involved in the original NWA, and I may be mistaken on that. My good friend from Kentucky, Joe Violet. Joe, what's going on, my brother?
How's it going, JP? Glad to be on here. Actually, my uncle was involved in the Tennessee territory in the 70s as the Masked Golden Devil.
The Masked Golden Devil. That's it. You told me that story before. I must admit I'm a month away from being 42. So you know what they say, when you hit a certain age, you get senile and crazy. Well, you know what they say about Terry Funk, middle-aged and crazy. Well, I'm at that point now, and I forget everything. I forget more than I remember. But Tennessee territory, the Masked Devil, and they had some good names in the Tennessee territory back in the day. I mean, that was a Jarrett. You had the Jarrett territory. Was he more involved with the Lawler side of things? Because Tennessee, I mean, it was pretty split down the middle, right?
If memory serves me correctly, he was involved more with Teeny Jarrett.
Okay, gotcha. Well, this gentleman, both of these gentlemen, I can tell you, folks, know their stuff, and we're going to break down the Royal Rumble like only we know how, and that's with craziness and insanity. But no, tonight, though, obviously, I'm not going to lie, coming in, especially when they announced the WWE title match, I had a little bit of trepidation about what to expect tonight. As it was announced, Bill Goldberg was once again coming out of exile, and his first match was going to be for a WWE championship. We all saw this script before last two times. He did it to Kevin Owens. He did it to The Fiend last year. As soon as they announced this match, I'm thinking, oh my God almighty, Drew McIntyre's next. All this work they've done with Drew McIntyre is about to go down the Johnny Flusher. It's about to get thrown away, and honestly, neither Owens nor The Fiend has fully recovered from the Goldberg treatment since. So when they announced this match, I'm just the whole time I'm thinking, oh my God, I know what's going to happen. McIntyre's going to come out. He's going to kick him in the head. He's going to give him a couple claymores. Goldberg's going to kick out, and then we're going to see Jackhammer Spear 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to come on this radio show tonight full of urine and vinegar, and I'm not going to be a happy camper. Well, in the first of pleasant surprises, because we'll lead off by talking about this, I got 1/4 of that part correct. It did start with a couple of claymores. It did start with a brawl. It did start with jackhammers. But McIntyre kicked out, and McIntyre won clean. Absolutely the right decision was made here. And I've been as big of a critic about Bill Goldberg's returns basically since the start, since they started happening back in, what was it, 2016, gentlemen, 2017, when he ran through Lesnar in 37 seconds. I mean,
2016 Survivor Series.
Gotcha. So, I mean, I've been very critical of Goldberg's returns because it's the same song and dance. He comes, he wins a title, he puts somebody over on his way out the door and leaves. This, though, if this is what he's going to do in his 2 matches a year, because he's on a contract where he wrestles twice a year, he's going to put a young guy and elevate them like this. I have no problems with it. And if this continues Drew McIntyre's ascent to superstardom, which it continues to push this guy as it. And in an era where WWE has, dare I say, I don't want to say flunked miserably because that's very harsh to say, but for lack of a better term, they've had major fundamental problems building superstars. Over the last 12 months, they have absolutely hit the jackpot with McIntyre. I mean, you look at what he's done. He's won clean in his feud with Randy Orton, where he won 4 more than he lost. He's beaten Brock Lesnar clean. He won the Royal Rumble last year. Now he has a clean victory over Bill Goldberg. Not many people can say that. I mean, they are continuing to do the right thing by this guy. So any of you gentlemen want to chime in with your thoughts on the match itself? And I mean, I don't think I'm going to get too much disagreement on the decision-making process. I mean, unless there's somebody on here that's going to pull the wool over my eyes and say that, they should have put the belt on Goldberg, which if you, Dave, say that, Gabe, I give you full permission to kick them off now. But Matt, what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, I thought that this match started off really exciting, with the brawl outside the ring and then Goldberg spearing back in.
We may be having a little bit of technical difficulties with Matt's connection link. Joe, while he's trying to come back on, I'm going to let you jump in here real quick while we try to figure that one out. We do apologize for that, though, folks. Sometimes technical side of things can be.
Once I got in there, it was Claymore, jackhammer, Claymore, spear, etc. And I'm glad that they went with McIntyre putting over Goldberg. It made McIntyre look great, especially getting beat up outside. Before the bell even rang. And then, he looks really tough, saying, keep going, fine, etc. They've been doing really well with Drew McIntyre, and I am so glad that they kept it going tonight. I was dreading that they were going to put that title on Bill Goldberg. I almost did not want to watch the Royal Rumble because I thought that was going to happen. Thank God it did not. I'm just so happy to be wrong about it.
Me too. Joe, I think, you and I have had plenty of discussions about Bill Goldberg over his reign of error or terror. No disrespect to Goldberg. I mean, he's an incredibly nice guy. He had his role in this business and he was over like gangbusters. But I think we both agree right decision was made tonight.
Well, mechanically, the only surprise I really saw was at the very beginning when McIntyre threw a spear at Goldberg. That was shocking to me. But it was your standard world heavyweight title match that they've had since Lesnar had it. Big move after false finish, after big move, after false finish, and then boom, real finish. Right. That part didn't surprise me. What did surprise me is that McIntyre went over, as you put it, clean as a whistle.
See, and I know that you mentioned it. It was a pretty paint by numbers match. And if there's been one complaint that's been pretty across the board online, that it was basically a paint by numbers match. But let me play devil's advocate here. Okay. Bill Goldberg is a 54-year-old man. Okay. Bill Goldberg, for as much of a moneymaker he was, and we cannot take that away from him, that guy kept WCW alive probably 3 years longer than they should have been. That guy made a ton of money and he still pops ratings now. Hey, the guy comes and he still puts eyeballs on the sets. Bill Goldberg was limited at 32. Bill Goldberg was limited at 34. At 54, I think you get my point of view. You do not want this guy doing any more than what we saw here tonight, like what we saw at WrestleMania when he wrestled Brock. Less is more with Goldberg. He went out there, he did his thing, And it was a, I'm not going to sit there and say it was Savage Steamboat at Mania 3. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a Mega Okada. It wasn't. But for what it was intended to be, I thought it was a pretty solid, it was a hoss fight. It was two hosses that went out there and beat the snot out of one another. And, at the end of the day, the right man won. Goldberg laid down cleanly for McIntyre, which he's not done for many people. And, he elevated this guy to a whole new level. And I think that was, at the end of the day, if that was what WWE's plans were, then mission accomplished, in my opinion, Joe.
I agree with you 100% on that. I think the purpose was to elevate McIntyre because, as you said, they haven't really been creating that many stars as of late. We had this discussion last night, how 20 years ago, you were able to build up stars because you were able to do so organically. Whereas today, they're trying to force it. They forced Roman Reigns down our throats. Granted, this tribal chief gimmick he's doing now is done wonders for his career, but trying to push certain people down our throats. And it's best that they grow organically instead of trying to force it.
Exactly. We've got about a minute to go, but I'm going to read some of the grades off of CBSSports.com. They're right up. They gave this a C+, and they said it followed the Goldberg formula for better or worse. For a match nobody really wanted. Real quick grade on this. They give it a C+. I'm going to give it a B-. Maybe I'm feeling generous tonight. Like they said, it did follow the Goldberg formula. It was short. It was sweet. It was to the point. And most of all, the right man won, and it served its purpose. Matt, real quick, what grade would you give this match on an A to F scale?
I'd probably give it a B, because like you said, it was a Goldberg match, and like in his prime, the best Goldberg matches were the one where he squashed people. So I don't get the argument to where when he's not so much in his prime anymore, now people want to see him actually wrestle matches, No, that's what Goldberg does. He just squash matches.
That wasn't Goldberg then. That's not him now. And if we learn nothing from the Undertaker debacle in Saudi Arabia, the longer the match goes, the more of a disaster it is. I mean, like I said, Goldberg at 34 wasn't a 10-minute, 20-minute Broadway guy. It was a 5-minute get the hell out of the way match type of guy. He was basically the Ultimate Warrior circa 1999. Joe, real quick grade on an 8F scale on this one before we go to quick break.
I think I'm with you on this one. I give it a B-. Funny you compare him to the Warrior because that's about the same work rate. But in all seriousness, I disagree with Matt. His best match, in my opinion, in WCW was, surprisingly enough, with another guy who started off late in Diamond Dallas Page. But yeah, it had to follow a certain formula because if you take him past 5-10 minutes, anybody who doesn't believe any of us on that, go look up on YouTube Goldberg versus Steven Regal. And there's proof right there that Goldberg was not the most prolific and most polished worker. So all that being said, considering what kind of formula you had to follow, the match itself, and the result of it, yeah, I'd give it a B-.
So there you have it across the board. All of us seem to agree the match served its purpose. It was around the B- range. Anyway, let's listen to this show. Feel free to let us know what your thoughts on this grade scale was. What do you think of this match as a whole? Do you think WWE hit the mark? Hey, folks, we're going to go to our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the women's title match between Sasha Banks. We've been talking about the tag title match between Charlotte Flair and Asuka versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler.
You're listening to only the best internet radio station in the world. No, the universe.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Gold Talk Radio.
The hottest new talents in pro wrestling today are in the Arizona Wrestling Federation. Subscribe today for all the action. YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling AZ. Catch the excitement.
Previously on Broken Link Radio.
Jim, do you have any idea what's going on with Kim Jong-un right now? Everything's cool.
Oh, all good.
He was hiding from coronavirus. As an intelligence officer, if you can't tell if somebody's dead or alive, that's pretty rough. That's a big miss.
That's pretty big. So he's going to get anti-aircraft artillery, but it's based on like a group of like a Jewish guy or like a Jewish group of, I don't know if they're spies or what. It was a tab that I created. And
Broken Link Radio.
The call to serve. It has no sound, yet I have heard it in the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. The call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it in the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy, a global force for good.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Go Talk Radio.
Welcome back to your 2021 WWE Royal Rumble recap show here on Red Gull. I am your host, JP Steele. Joining me, as always, two of my BFFs, the SEDs in the house. You want to know what SEDs are? Well, I'm not going to tell you today because George Carlin, wherever he may be, may not like that too much. We got my main man, Joe Violet, from the mean streets of southern Kentucky, and St. Louis's finest, Sasha Banks' #1 fan, and Bill Cosby's favorite son, Matt MJ Gunner. Lindsay, what's up, gentlemen?
Hey, Cosby, very funny. But you're right about Sasha Banks' biggest fan, though. She's everything.
Damn, Mark.
Well, you know, I'm
I'm proud of it.
You know, I'm going to give you guys.
Proud of it.
I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to go at each other and do this. Then we will recap the women's matches. Joe, I know you've been chomping at the bits to give Matt a hard time about his affinity for Mercedes, and I always get a kick out of this one too. So I'm just going to sit back here. I'm going to drink my Rolling Rock beer, and I'm going to allow you two to chop at each other at the bits. But when I start talking about the match, we got to get back to business because, you know, if we don't get the business, the bills ain't going to get paid. So you two have at your back and forth fist fight about who's got the bigger brass between Sasha and everybody else. Right?
That's not an affinity he's got. It's an obsession.
I am not obsessed. I just happen to be. I'm very proud to be a Sasha Banks mark. I feel that she can do no wrong within that wrestling ring, and that's just me. You know, I'll be a fan of somebody, brother.
Yeah, well, let's bring a black light into your room and check your.
Like you want to. Go ahead, because you're not going to find anything.
You're lying on me.
It's so funny, Violet.
You're not going to find anything. That's what she said, right?
That is what she said.
I'm just saying, what's the matter with being a Sasha Banks fan? I'm not going to stand for it.
And is at the time on SmackDown versus whoever the NXT Women's Champion is, and I merge the belts. All three of them, I take these tag team titles and I throw them directly into the Atlantic Ocean. They can go to skid, not that long ago. I take, I get rid of them. I have one woman. It's not just them. I do these with the tag titles too. There's not enough quality tag teams, and there's not enough viable contenders for these women's champions to where you can example that. And then you've got women like Asuka, who is a bona fide star when properly positioned and has potential to be right up there with the Charlotte Flairs and the Baileys, who, by the way, prior to last year, before they turned her heel, was running in the same hamster wheel over and over again and going nowhere before they did this. And now she's the hottest act on the roster, or one of them for the longest time. I mean, build these women up instead of having a belt for you, a belt for me. Here's a discount belt for Joe. Here, Matt, here's a belt for you. I mean, less is more. Like the Bill Goldberg match, less is more.
I definitely feel that. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say you're absolutely right, JP. There is an obvious divide in the positioning of the women on Raw and SmackDown, and even the NXT roster. My opinion is the roster is not deep enough to have a women's tag team title. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. That whole tag team division thing was just to appease Sasha and Bayley, but the fact is the roster just is not deep enough because there are those. Like I said, there's a divide in. I won't even so much say the talent, but as far as how people have been positioned. I mean, like you said, it's obvious where this is going to give the flair. And I'm not saying this because it's a knock on Sasha this time, Matt, but let's be honest. Both Sasha and Charlotte's reigns, more than a few of them were done off of ping-ponging off of each other. That just seems like a padded stat, in my opinion.
Exactly. But just think about this for a minute, though, okay? And I'm fond of what Carmella's done in her career. Okay, Carmella went from being arm candy for Enzo and Cass to becoming a pretty solid worker, right? I mean, is this woman ever going to give Medusa a run for her money in terms of in-ring chops? No, but is she Eva Marie? Is she a complete, a debacle when she gets out and wrestles? No, she puts on a quality match. Yet here's the reality for as a Sasha fan, let's be brutally honest. Would you not rather see Sasha Banks defending her title against Asuka and against Shayna Baszler? And it's even though she's sloppier than a $5 an hour weed whacker that you get at the discount aisle at Walmart. I mean, Nia Jax has been positioned as that killer. Wouldn't you like to see Sasha get built up by bulldozing through these women rather than beating somebody who 6 months ago was dancing in goofy skits with R-Truth?
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from, JP. It's the same thing on SmackDown, really. They got Sasha and they got Bayley as the two, biggest stars. And, nobody else has been positioned to be on that level yet, So there's not really not a lot of places they can go with Sasha Banks' title run. Well, except for the winner of the Royal Rumble, which we will be getting into.
We'll be getting that here in just a couple of seconds, which this is a good thing they did tonight. They elevated two, and I think one is coming up to the main round. But to me, though, I just think this is what they need to do. Get rid of those tag belts. Get rid of them. Do what you got to do with them. Retire them. They serve their purpose, okay? And it's not just that tag titles. Get rid of the men's tag titles, too. But since we're talking about women this segment, we'll stick with this. Get rid of those tag titles. Have one championship. NXT wants, they're not the third, they're not the developmental system, folks. I don't care what the AEW marks will say. I don't care what Vince McMahon says. Adam Cole is not a developmental guy. Okay. Johnny Gargano was developmental back in 2010. Okay. Tommaso Ciampa wasn't even a developmental guy in 2015 when I did my first wrestling show out here and gave Drew McIntyre a ride in my old Toyota 4Runner to the Sky Harbor International Airport. Okay, these aren't developmental guys. You want ratings, right? Ratings are dying a slow, painful death on Wednesday night. They're not about to remain on Wednesday anymore because of NBCSN going belly up. You want ratings. You want to compete with AEW. That's what you're trying to do. Put the women's title. Have one women's title. Have the women defend the belt on NXT. Have the WWE tag titles defended on NXT. And these young girls like Bianca Belair, not Bianca Belair, I just gave my step ahead of myself, but like Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez and Candice LeRae, who's not a young gal by any means, but these women you want to get exposure to before you call them up to the main roster. You don't got a better way of doing it too. That's the best way to do it. I know Candice has exposure with the hardcore fans, but people on the main roster that don't give two squats about NXT now, well, you send Sasha Banks down there and to have her defend the belt against, Candice LeRae in a 30-minute barn burner. Suddenly people that don't follow NXT are going to say, hey, this LeRae girl is the real deal. That's how you do it. Same with the tag titles. And then you get people watching. You kill two birds with one stone rather than, let's throw darts at the wall and see which woman this week we're going to give a title shot. Oh, well, this week, okay, it's Peyton Royce. Oh, this week we're going to give it to Ruby Riott. This week we're going to give it to Billie Kay. This week we're going to give it to the girl that's holding the camera that's, doing the shaky shots where you get 15 different camera angles in a 30-second match. To me, that does no service to these women. The folks going muted here, but let's go on to the Royal Rumble though. While we're talking about that, because in the Royal Rumble, we did see one star Bill. We saw two. I mean, she was sort of built last year, but then she sort of hit the skids for a little while. Now it seems like they've got big plans for her. 2021 Royal Rumble winner, Bianca Belair, and we've known seemingly from the start that this woman had big things coming to her. Tonight was really the first step of her stepping forward and becoming that larger than life next big thing, that we get to see somebody that's not a member of the Four Horsewomen with the belt or surrounded with the belt. But taking a quick rundown of what happened in this match, Bayley and Naomi started 1-1-2, 1-2. Belair came in 3, Billy Kay at 4. Then we saw Shotzi Blackheart. Just real quick, some of the big returns that we saw in this. Victoria. There's a name that I was really happy to see, because you've seen all these women get brought back, Matt, over the years. Molly Holly and Tori Wilson, they seem to bring her back every so often. Victoria is one of those women that when she went away. And you wondered, why did they never bring this woman back? Because her departure didn't seem acrimonious. But they bring her back and tonight, and she looked good. She still looked damn good.
Yeah, she did.
No arguments here.
And, then we have Jillian Hall's back, which that's a name that I don't think too many of us were expecting. But we've seen Alicia Fox come back, and we saw a goofy skit with R-Truth. But anyway, the final part of the match came down to Natalia, Belair, Ripley, and Flair. And how many of us honestly were thinking, oh, no. When Flair was one of those final four, I think we all were thinking the same thing. Oh God. You know what I mean? Oh, God.
I was going to flip a table. I was going to flip a table because I thought
it. Not only did, again, another pleasant surprise. Not only did Flair not win, she wasn't even the final two. Wound up being final two of Belair and of Ripley. And I think that's the future of the division. I think this is the first sign of what you see is the future of the women's division. Again, that does not involve the Four Horsewomen. And both walked away looking really good. I think you could have gone with either win in this match, but to me, it's nice to where Belair needed, I think, to rub just a little bit more.
I was sitting there.
I think so too.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think so too, because Rhea Ripley, she kind of got her shine on in NXT, and she defended the women's title at WrestleMania last year. So between the two of them, I think Bianca Belair kind of needed the moment more to solidify herself as a main eventer as well. Because Rhea Ripley kind of did that in NXT.
When I was at my party with my friends tonight, when it came down to Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, I looked at them and said, guys, this is the future of women's wrestling beyond the Four Horsewomen. When WWE decides they finally want to move away from those four, this is your future. And I think Belair was the right choice, because let's suppose Rhea Ripley does win. Yeah, you're going to probably have more fans that are going to be happier with it. But at the same time, you're more than likely leading up to Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley 2, which isn't exactly a fresh match. You put her against Bianca Belair, and it's like, wow, you've got something different here. And as far as the surprises go, it just goes back to what I said earlier about the women's roster not being deep enough. In the past 2 years, you've had about half the entrants being regulars from Raw or SmackDown, and then you were having to call up people from NXT, and then you were having to call in part-timers. That just reaffirms to me personally that roster is not deep enough.
Right. Well, I know when the Rumble was out here 2 years ago, they were calling women up, and I like to be versed on the roster, but on all three. And some of the women that were getting called into the Royal Rumble, I'm asking myself, who is that? So Your point is exactly taken. And as for the winner of the Rumble itself, the story between, you brought up a valid point that, we've seen Rhea and Flair, last year Mania, she had that rub. But I'm going to go take it one step further here. I think the story for Rhea is there right now. And that's that Charlotte Flair match, that rematch that she should have won last year. I will say that 1,001 times removed. She should have won the match last year. No question in my mind. But this is her chance for retribution. The story's there. Look, you beat me last year. I went on a bit of a downward spiral because of it. I was the hottest act in the business after I beat Shayna Baszler. I lost. I went down. My build back is not complete until I beat you. Then you got Belair. And let's be honest, Belair versus Sasha, that is going to be exciting. That's going to be an exciting match. I mean, those are probably two of the most athletic. I mean, that's going to be an athletic specimen. They're both extremely athletic. They're both exciting to watch. That is a highlight reel match. So, I mean, the story needed to be told with Belair, I think, a little bit more than it did with Ripley. I think the story is already set in stone with Rhea, but they made her look good. They made both look damn good.
I think there's a story here that we've all missed as far as Charlotte goes. And that's the wrinkle with Lacey Evans and her dad.
Do you think that continues on through WrestleMania though? I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe that, maybe it does, but
I do, because like we were talking earlier about stop and start pushes, you could throw Lacey Evans into that category as well. They've started to push her and then stopped, and she's been in limbo for so long, and now they've got something that she might be able to chew on. And it gives Ric Flair himself something to do. So, do I see it going to Mania? It's quite possible.
All right, I'm. Well, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I did not think that match, that feud was going to get carried to WrestleMania. I mean, I suppose it could, and if they do it, well, it could be a good one. I didn't see it getting to WrestleMania though. That thought never even crossed my mind.
This Days of Our Lives crap. This is what I have a problem with. Okay. Are we really supposed to believe? And I'm a Ric Flair, nothing but love, dude. Ric Flair, this business, everybody in it, whether it's the lowdown manager schmucks and the commentators like me, or the fans or people in it, we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to Ric Flair. True. Am I actually supposed to believe that Lacey Evans, who could get any guy on that roster she wants, we're not talking about Maisie Estrada here, we're talking Lacey Evans, is going to throw it back into Motel 6 with a 72-year-old, 73-year-old Ric Flair? And yeah, I know it's mind games to play mind games with Charlotte. I get it. And Rick is, getting his comeuppance in Charlotte. He's still, again, dirtiest player in the game. This, to me, is one step up from Al Wilson and Tori Wilson with Dawn Marie. Better talent.
That felt right out of my head.
That's garbage. That was garbage, and so is this. I'm sorry. This whole story is just this is the crap that does nothing to benefit. I mean, it doesn't hurt Charlotte. It doesn't help her, but it doesn't. Charlotte's made. You could have Charlotte go out there and stand on her head and hold her chest and sing the Macarena while Natalya throws bowling balls on her back, and it's not going to hurt her. This doesn't do nothing for Lacey. It just makes her look like a cheap, tawdry $5 an hour Hooter showgirl that she's willing to throw back with a guy that was born in the 1940s. I mean, come on. This is brutal, and I don't want to see this continue to WrestleMania. I don't. I hope they don't continue it on that long, because this is getting long. This is Lana, Bobby Lashley, Rusev bad. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah,
I was just going to point out that. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that we talked about this on the Sons of Legends a few weeks ago, and I was hoping that this would look like Rick is, mentoring Lacey Evans, and it looks like Rick is, just managing her. But of course, it can't look like that. It has to look like they're, an item. And I'm not a very big fan of that either, to be honest with you. As JP said, this does nothing for nobody. And it's just not a good look for me. So I hope it doesn't go to WrestleMania either.
I agree. I was just going to say I'm not hoping that it goes that far. I was just making the point of, given the writer's track record, it wouldn't surprise me if it did. Now, you mentioned the Al Wilson,
Right.
Dawn Marie, Tori Wilson angle. I just hope that it doesn't end the same way that angle did, which was Al Wilson dying.
Oh God, yeah. Look, I don't want to see Ric Flair off my TV that bad. I just,
True.
no. And here's another thing too. Here's another stupid question. While we're on the topic of that, we're gonna turn. This could be leading to Ric Flair getting killed off. Last I saw, I thought Ric Flair was a babyface. Am I wrong or am I right? I mean, when we saw Ric Flair before this love triangle that he has with somebody that's young enough to be his granddaughter, right? Before somebody in the writing in the back, before Bruce Pritchard decided he wanted to do an angle where he thought it'd be cool to have Lacey Evans, who's an extremely talented wrestler in her own right, I might add, be Ric Flair's Circle K girlfriend or her Motel 6 girlfriend for this week. I mean, why? I mean, again, but wasn't Flair a face all summer? The whole Randy Orton line?
Yes. He's the one who drove the ambulance out of the arena that Orton got put in.
Yeah, exactly. So last time we see Ric Flair, he's a babyface. He drives Randy Orton away in the ambulance to help McIntyre win a feud, and then he gets beat up in the locker room the next night with some strobe lights or some black lights or whatever that hideous nonsense was. He comes back. He accidentally tripped Charlotte, or maybe purposely tripped Charlotte. Hey, let's turn him heel and let's get Rick and Lacey into a tawdry relationship storyline and screw Charlotte. This is stupid. This is this is ridiculous.
I think it is too.
Go ahead, Joe.
Think on this as well. You want to talk about stupid? How many tweets has Lacey Evans put out on Twitter talking about her family? Are we really supposed to believe, or are we really supposed to just forget that she has acknowledged that she's happily married with a family?
Right.
We've seen her daughter on TV 1,000 times.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Her feud this last summer with Sasha Banks when she was a babyface. Talking about what a lousy mother, Sasha doing the heel work. What a lousy mother, that Lacey is, and she's going to grow up to be, look up to Sasha more than she is Lacey. And then, we're supposed to forget this daughter existed. and all of a sudden Lacey, we're going to forget that existed. And Lacey's going to turn around and sleep with Rick Flair. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Anyway, we got to go to another break. Congratulations to Bianca Belair. It was the right decision to make. Royal Rumble, we got a real quick break. Grade, A through F grade. I'm going to give this an A. I'm going to give it an A. Good call by WWE. Real quick, A through F. Matt, what grade do you give it?
A.
Joe? A.
It's all A's in our book, folks. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have round 3. We're going to discuss all the other happenings. We're going to discuss Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns, and we're going to discuss the men's Royal Rumble up next here on the Royal Rumble Recap Show on Red Gull Media.
You're listening to only the best internet radio station in the world. No, the universe.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Go Talk Radio.
The hottest new talents in pro wrestling today are in the Arizona Wrestling Federation. Subscribe today for all the action. YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling AZ. Catch the excitement.
Previously on Broken Link Radio.
Jim, do you have any idea what's going on with Kim Jong-un right now? Everything's cool.
Oh, all good.
He was hiding from coronavirus. As an intelligence officer, if you can't tell if somebody's dead or alive, that's pretty rough. That's a big miss.
That's pretty big. So he's going to get anti-aircraft artillery, but it's based on like a group of like a Jewish guy or like a Jewish group of, I don't know if they're spies or what. It was a tab that I created. And
Broken Link Radio.
The call to serve. It has no sound, yet I have heard it in the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. The call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it in the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy, a global force for good.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Gold Talk Radio.
No, we really got to think of a cool name for this here little party that we've had here tonight. This is your official Royal Rumble recap show here on Red and Gold Media. I am your host, JP. As always, my good friend, Joe Violet, Matt, Jay, Gunner, Lindsay. Gentlemen, we do need to think of a gimmick for. We got to think of a real gimmick. We'll have to talk about this off air because I think I want to maybe do this again sometime because I'm enjoying this.
Well, you know me, man. Whenever, wherever.
Yeah, that's like what you said about Sasha. Whenever, wherever, anytime, any place, right?
Yeah, true.
I'm gonna give you the business. I have my crushes, man. I looked at that picture that Paige Boyce put on Twitter tonight. Yeah, I'm a happily married man, but I might take my one get out of jail free card with her. Yeah, that's yeah.
I'm just going to plead the fifth on this one because knowing my luck, my girlfriend will want to listen to this.
Oh, my wife is listening in the other room. She opened the door and rolled her eyes at me and closed the door. Gabe, are you able to unmute yourself? Did I cross any lines by saying that? That was pretty PG, right? That was pretty our official, the man behind the mask, Gabe Anders, who's keeping us on the air here and making us sound normal. Was that PG with that? Was that clean? I guess he is. He's not yelling at me, so I guess we're good to go. All right. Well, I know one thing that seemed to have some people yelling was the WWE Universal title match. Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, last man standing. This one, folks, was a straight up fist fight. This one was not for the faint at heart, but these guys went out there and they put on a technical beating of each other, and it was a very good match. I mean, and once again, Roman Reigns, the heel, continues to deliver on the big time. I mean, this guy was always, well, I'm just going to say it as it is. This guy was always unduly frowned upon by the IWC because he was Vince's golden child. People said he was a terrible wrestler and all this other nonsense. He's never been a terrible wrestler. He was a guy, though, that was forced to make, as Brock Lesnar once put it on The Ultimate Fighter, chicken salad out of chicken feces. And he made the most of it. But Roman Reigns is a heel. Everything this guy has done has knocked it out of the park. And tonight, last man standing match, this was a fantastic match from start to finish. It wasn't technical. It wasn't pretty, but if you guys like a pure brown fight, old school style, this was it. And it wasn't a sloppy fight. It was just to go out there and do the damn thing, for lack of a better term. And it's, I don't want to say it stole the show, but it definitely was up there. It was up there of one of the better title matches you'll see in World history. I don't think it was as good as the three-way one between with Brock and Seth a couple years ago. The three-way with Brock and Seth and Cena. I don't think it was that good, but it's definitely one of the better ones since then.
Yo, what's up, JP and Joe? We just got Art back here, and I think he'd like to chime in on this. What do you think of Roman and Brock? Roman and KO.
I think that Roman and KO was actually really good. It had some really good spots, but as far as the storytelling, this one was off for me a little bit. The thing about it is, with Roman and KO, they've had a couple of matches by now, probably about 3 or 4 by now, and KO hasn't had a one-up yet. And in order to keep the storyline interesting, he has to have one up somewhere, and he hasn't had it.
Okay. See, I do get your point of view, and I'm not at all disagreeing with you. And you're very valid. I want to play devil's advocate here a little bit, though. Okay. There is a point in time where we have to see Roman get beat. We have to see Roman lay down and see his shoulders take the pinfall, right? It is the right time. Because, I mean, let's be honest, when he turned him heel, I think in order to keep this heel push, to make him look like this indestructible monster, I think he had to go through a reign of terror. That way, whoever beats him, whether it be Big E or the winner of the men's Royal Rumble, which I won't spoil it for you, but we'll get into that in a minute, or whoever beats him, suddenly, it's like Brock in the Royal Rumble last year when he was throwing people out left and right, and we were all in the chat room. And you remember people, what the hell's going on? This is garbage. This is awful. This is terrible. And you remember I was saying, just wait. Whoever eliminates this guy is going to be a made man, unless it's already a made man, and it's pointless. But then Drew comes in there, Claymore kicks his head into the 19th rope, Brock goes flying over the top rope. Well, Roman, they did that, SummerSlam heel turn. Nobody's seen it coming, and they really didn't. To me, you had to have this guy almost go on in this tear of invincibility. And
yeah, but they haven't. They haven't had him go on this tear of invincibility. They've actually had him basically getting beat up by Kevin Owens a lot, but never losing a match at all.
But he always wins by complete heel tactics, by complete debauchery, right?
Right. Every single time. Yeah.
Complete typical debauchery heel tactics, right? I mean, because let's be honest, we've seen Roman beaten before, right? We've seen Roman beaten before. He does have to play that standard face. He does have to play that standard heel too. To where, the standard heel, let's be honest, Ric Flair, back in the 80s when he was at his best as world champ, whoever he was in there with would take him right to the brink. Whether it's Ricky Morton or Sting or Lex Luger or Ronnie Garvin or whoever, Barry Windham, whoever he was in there with, would take him right to the brink. And then they'd lose. Flair would either get interference from the Horsemen or some debauchery would go on and Flair would wind up retaining the belt. But ultimately, when Sting won that belt from him, Sting was a made man. You follow what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Go ahead, Art.
Yeah,
go
whoever
ahead,
it is.
Good.
Whoever it is that gets that pinfall off of Roman is going to be completely made.
Exactly.
Yes. And I was going to say, do you know why that is? Because every time you saw Flair, or the example I usually use is the Honky Tonk Man with his Intercontinental title run. But with using heel tactics like that, do you know what that does? That guarantees that you're going to want to tune in the next week or next 2 weeks, whatever, to see Roman get beat up or to see him possibly lose that title. Right. And like Art said, whoever does get that pin on him is going to be made.
They are going to.
Well, absolutely. Whoever beats Roman is going to be a made man. And I really enjoy this feud with KO. This match had a lot of spots in it that I thought were crazy. But I'm also looking forward to see some new blood go after him, as they say.
And also, there was one thing that really irked me about this match, and that was when the referee at the end, when Roman was handcuffed, how he started counting. And when he got to 6, he just stopped counting. Roman wasn't on his feet yet or anything. They didn't give an explanation to why he stopped counting. He just stopped.
That was one of them little nuances, though. I mean, and I'm hopeful. My hope is there's more to that story, and that wasn't just a ref botch that we're supposed to forget ever happened. I don't know if you guys watch MLW at all or not, and I'm going to use this as an example, but they did something this week with Savio Vega and Richard Holiday, where the ref stopped counting. Well, the ref was infamous Tim Donaghy, who screwed the Phoenix Suns out of, you know who Tim Donaghy is, right? Crooked NBA referee who got basically blacklisted from the league for taking money to throw games. Well, I hope this is something similar to that. It could have very well been a botch. I mean, but once again, if it was, though, Reigns wins under controversy. That adds to Reigns' reign, so to speak, of terror, to where, all right, this guy wins by hook or by crook. You know, there's so much BS that goes on behind his title wins that whoever winds up knocking that big dog off his throne, so to speak, again, that's only going to make it that much sweeter. But you're right. There's things that those little things irk us. But this is one of those irk me things, though. That it's an old school irk me. Man, I want to see this guy get the break speed off of him. It's good irking, not this sucks. I'm changing the channel and never watching it again. Irking, if that makes sense. Joe, does that make sense to you, or am I going off the rails a little bit here?
I think that makes perfect sense. I don't know if he's talking about the spot where Heyman was trying to get the handcuffs off of him, but I did notice the ref stopped counting at that point as well.
Yeah,
something that really irks me personally, and I'm not trying to turn this into a pessimistic fan, jaded fan, old school fan, or whatever. But one thing that gets me with these street fights, these last man standing matches, think about if you were taking this fight personally. Would you want to take the time to climb up on a forklift, do a flip, and put the guy through a table?
No, that's yeah.
I mean, I understand this is supposed to be suspension of disbelief, but that only goes to a certain extent.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I mean, and that's a good point you brought up on that. Too many of these street fights now, they're not street, nonsense like that go on there to where, look, if I really hate somebody's guts, I'm not jumping and doing a 360 flip to hit them. I'm grabbing beer bottles. I'm grabbing, baseball bats. I'm grabbing anything I can get my hands on. I'll give you an example. And I'm not trying to show for AWF here. Yes, I am. But, nevertheless, they had a street fight between Mystique and Bryn Thorne. This was before the pandemic sent everything into whack. And there's a little bit of a build to this. They had a street fight, and there was nothing. There was no flips, no dives. There was no cute BS to this. As a matter of fact, it got so intense. Gabe will remember this. There was actually there was a fight with some jerk in the crowd that got a little too. I'm laughing now. It was not funny at the time. This guy got a little too cute with Bryn. It got ugly. But they went out there and these two girls went out and beat the hell out of each other. That's the type of street fight I want to see. I want to see them go out there. I don't want to see dudes doing flips off of cranes. I mean, that's not a feud. But that's not an accumulation of a feud, which is what this is. But as for feeling bad for Owens not winning a match, I mean, look, let's be frank here. Back in October, this guy was in really a go nowhere feud that should have gone farther than it did with Aleister Black. All right, and that's not a knock on either him or Black. Those guys deserve far better on that feud than they got. But he was stuck in limbo on Raw. He was stuck in limbo on Raw. That feud with Black did not benefit him. It did not benefit Black. It was just, let's throw garbage at a wall and see what sticks. And neither one of them came out ahead of it. He was moved back to SmackDown, gets this feud with Reigns. And realistically, I think he's in as good of a position now as he's been probably since the Jericho feud. Maybe the McMahon feud. But I mean, he's back in that good shape again that really he wasn't. So this was never really going to be about Kevin Owens ever winning any matches in this feud, but it was back to elevating him as a top babyface and really in some degrees a main event player.
I agree with you. Other than that spot I was referring to with the Swanton, this was a change of pace match. I mean, it's not what we're used to seeing these days, but it was a good change of pace. They went just about everywhere in the arena. They kicked the crap out of each other. And yes, there was a screwy finish, but that's how they're building Roman up now. I really don't have any complaints except for the one spot.
Yeah, I mean,
again, I just feel like if you were wanting to beat the crap out of somebody, that's not something you would do.
Here's what I like about Roman and these endings and these, I like my heels to be heels. I like my heels to be straight up guys I want to see get the crap kicked out of them at the end of the week. I like, the old Roddy Piper heels, the old Ric Flair heels. Nowadays, you have too many guys in the business, and God bless them for it. I mean, it works. It works for them. It does. And I'm not going to ever take anything away from anybody in this business that has that formula that works. You've got too many heels now that try to be the cool heel, that try to be the heel that, yeah, I'm the bad guy, but I'm going to do things that are going to get you to like me. Roman don't do that. Roman doesn't do that. He embraces it. I mean, he does just the little nuances. Like, I'm going to go back to the summertime. Just the little things when he was feuding with Jey Uso. And he was it was during the one match, and Jey got a 2 count, and Roman took his arm, or not his elbow, but he took the inner part of his ulna and slammed it into Jey's groin to get out of a pinfall. I was like, that is, and I think I said it to you in chat, that is genius. That was a absolute genius. Wasn't fancy, wasn't, some 450 splash, wasn't some technical. It was a basic move, but holy crap, that was genius. And it is a complete chicken crap heel move. That's what Roman's adopting.
I agree with that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. Roman Reigns has this different type of heel thing where he's basically saying, I love you, but I will punish you to keep things in order.
Right. And I'm going to keep this belt at all costs. And, we're going to talk about next for him coming up. But, man, we got 5 minutes in this segment. We'll talk about the men's Royal Rumble up next, who won. But just think about the story that's about to be. Just think about that. Think about the story.
I think right now on the horizon, what it seems like is Shinsuke Nakamura is up next by him turning back into a face and him feuding with Jey Uso with the Adam Pearce thing. I think that's what's up next, and that'll be a smart move too.
I think so. It's a nice bridge between 1 and 2. I wish they'd have given Nakamura a little bit more of a build, because it seemed like 1 week he's in there getting jobbed, with Otis, and then the next week we're going to run the gauntlet. But
it didn't work the same magic like it did with Kofi.
Well, it didn't. And realistically, long term, it didn't even work for Kofi, because let's be frank here. Here's the problem I have with WWE booking nowadays. And again, I don't blame the bookers. I don't blame the wrestlers. I certainly don't blame the wrestlers. They're doing what they're told to do. I don't blame the writers, because they're doing what they're being told to do. It's this mentality that I think comes straight from the top, where this guy has this scatterbrain mentality to where I'm going to take a handful of poop and throw it at the wall and see what sticks this week, right? And then the guys get peed, and if it sticks on the wall, I'm going to push you this week. I'm going to give you a 3-4 week push, and if it doesn't work and the people don't buy into it because you've been programmed for years not to give a crap about these guys, then I'm going to yank them back and push them at the bottom of the card again. I mean, look at Otis. Look at Otis, for God's sakes. You took a guy in Otis,
okay, have to,
in a comedy fodder tag team, okay? The guy was I mean, Heavy Machinery was a comedy fodder tag team that was, near the top, but not quite there. But they were near the top. You decide to keep him in this tag team, but have him go do his own thing as a singles guy, okay? This guy was basically a bigger version of Santino. But we're going to push him as with Money in the Bank, which is that main event level. Well, nobody cared. Nobody cared. And tonight, it showed the fruit of that Otis push was in full force. It didn't work because people have been programmed to look at this guy at such a level that they tried to push him as a main event guy and nobody bought into it. Now he goes into Royal Rumble and he lasts shorter than Bad Hamster or Bad Gerbil or Bad Raccoon
Bunny,
or whatever
it was.
Bad Bunny or whatever the hell his name is. I mean,
he didn't even last in between entries.
He left. I mean, honest to God, Goldberg's entrance lasted longer in the Royal than Otis did in the Royal Rumble. I mean, Otis's entrance lasted longer than Otis did. It's stuff like this, and now they're doing it with Nakamura, who has done really next to nothing since being, since basically
champion.
since the United States champion, the United States champion, let's be honest, that's just another, a belt that holds as much value anymore as a belt I can buy at the discount aisle at Walmart for $7.95. But, we need people for Reigns to plow through. So suddenly, money, Mo, let's pick this guy. You're up, Nakamura, get up there and go get run through. This doesn't work. And Kingston, you said as an example, where's Kofi at now? We got a great moment. It brought a tear to my eye. I know it brought a tear to you guys' eye. Where's Kofi at now? He's no better off.
Got demolished in 8 seconds on the debut of Fox.
I said in the chat that was our modern day Mick Foley moment.
See, but the thing is, Mick got ahead, though. Mick got his 15. Mick took that and had a Hall of Fame career based off of it. Kofi's going to go into Hall of Fame as a member of the New Day. Kofi could have been a main event guy. We got a minute to go before we got to go to the next break, but Kofi could have been a main event guy. But now, Kofi, that was basically Jinder Mahal. And I'm sorry, Kofi deserved far better than that. But there was nothing in plans behind other than that moment where everybody felt good about it. And yeah, it felt damn good. It felt great. But there was nothing in plan for store for him afterwards. And that's, again, shotgun booking. Anyway, guys, we got to go to our next break. When we come back, we will discuss the Men's Royal Rumble. And we'll even discuss possibly what we think should happen at WrestleMania. You're listening to the Royal Rumble recap show here on Red Gull Media.
You're listening to only the best internet radio station in the world. No, the universe.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Go Talk Radio.
The hottest new talents in pro wrestling today are in the Arizona Wrestling Federation. Subscribe today for all the action. YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling AZ. Catch the excitement.
Previously on Broken Link Radio.
Jim, do you have any idea what's going on with Kim Jong-un right now? Everything's cool.
Oh, all good.
He was hiding from coronavirus. As an intelligence officer, if you can't tell if somebody's dead or alive, that's pretty rough. That's a big miss.
That's pretty big. So he's going to get anti-aircraft artillery, but it's based on like a group of like a Jewish guy or like a Jewish group of, I don't know if they're spies or what. It was a tab that I created. And
Broken Link Radio.
The call to serve. It has no sound, yet I have heard it in the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. The call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it in the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy, a global force for good.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Go Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the JAM session. Yeah, JJAM. You know what that stands for, right? JP, Joe, Art, and Matt. And it actually sounds pretty good. Once in a while, I come up with a good idea. Not very often, but this is your official Royal Rumble recap for the 2021 Royal Rumble here on. What's the name of the station again? Oh, that's right, folks. It is. I almost called it Red Crow. I almost called it Red Crow, Gabe. It's late. It's late. I'm stoked up about the Royal Rumble, and I was looking at a picture of Rhea Ripley, so my mind was a little bit distracted there. Yeah, Rhea Ripley is my RedGull.net here on the Red Gull Media Network. Of course, I'm JP. Joining me, as always, is Joe Violet, Matt Lindsay, and Art Dog, Art Quinn. Gentlemen, it was a fun night. We've had a fun time on this podcast, even though I got briefly discombobulated looking at Rhea Ripley at the Royal Rumble. We all have our women crushes. We all have our vices. Yours is up. Thanks. Mine was Rhea Ripley. Let's get it all out the way right now, gentlemen. Who's your wives, our significant others, our girlfriends? We all have one. Who's your who's your woman crush? And Joe, if your girlfriend's listening, this is my fault. So if you want to yell at somebody, yell at me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Joe, give her my info. She can yell at me.
All right, I guess I'll start it then. In wrestling, I got two of them. Taylor Hendricks. I'm sorry, I got a thing for redheads.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm with you on Rhea Ripley.
Oh, she's between her and Dakota Kai. Yeah, it's yeah. All right, go ahead, buddy. I need my Rolling Rock beer here to calm
We
myself.
all know his.
Art's not around right now. He stepped out for a minute, but he'll be back.
See, all this talk about Rhea Ripley had Art stepping out for a few minutes too. Anyway, and guys, I'm going to tell you.
But I have to think about mine. I really do.
You lying?
Difficult decision. I have to. You guys got to come back to me here, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
if I had to pick somebody off the top of my head, I guess I would have to go with Sasha. She's kind of a queen. I would go with her.
I'm sure you had to rack your brain to think of that one, brother.
I did. I really did. Like I didn't want to surprise everybody, so just had to go with the first thought I had.
You shocked me half to death by saying Sasha there. I mean, I would have never suspected.
Yeah, I know, right? I didn't want to shock people. I just had to go ahead.
I must say before we get into our discussion about the Royal Rumble and before the spiral's completely off the rails, my apologies to Red Gull Media. I just say I saw Rhea Ripley. I met Rhea Ripley. I spent some time at Rhea when the Royal Rumble was out here, and I'll just say she's even better looking in person. And Joe, when I said to you I had low key I'm crushing on Dakota Kai in chat, what was your exact response? Low key what? Low key my rear end. Yeah,
pretty much.
Anyway, there was nothing low key about the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble, man. It was gets cut straight to the chase here. Edge, your 2021 Men's Royal Rumble winner. I would kill. I don't know what this guy does for stamina. I would kill to have this guy stamina. This is a guy who has not wrestled a match since what? July, June.
Yeah,
right?
Like June or July, one of those.
June or July. This guy has wrestled 2 matches since 2010. He goes out there and is number 1 in the Royal Rumble and goes coast to coast. He pulls the Ric Flair. This guy's wrestled 3 matches in a decade, and he goes coast to coast. I don't know what this guy does for stamina. Brother, I want it. I envy it because this guy, I mean, it takes a toll, man. People don't understand. Getting in there and we all could sit there, oh, Goldberg's equipped for 5 minutes. Goldberg can only go 3. Listen, to hold a 3-minute match, that ain't easy, man. That's not something that, it is grueling. Ask any professional wrestler that's ever did that. It is not an easy task to hold even a 3-minute match. To go 59 minutes, start to finish. And this wasn't Randy Orton, who, God bless him, took a powder, which told a hell of a story. It did. This guy went from start to
I didn't think he was coming back.
Orton, I did. I was expecting. I expected he was going to pull the Santino.
I thought he was out.
Did you? See, I thought he was pulling the Santino or Rusev treatment, where whoever survived was throwing him out. I didn't suspect Edge was going to be it, though. I mean, I was fairly, stunned by that. But kudos to Edge, man. This guy continues to defy belief. And real quick, before we get into some of the other happenings on what happened during this event, which we already told you, one, Randy Orton pulled a powder, wanted to back, tried to pull the age-old heel tactic. Joe, I'll start with you this time. Your thoughts on this this outcome? You thought was there somebody else you think could have, whether or not you like the decision or not? I mean, because I don't think any of us can actually say we hate this decision. I think it's great, but was there somebody else you should have gotten it a little more?
Well, first and foremost, I'd just like to say that I was wrong in what I had predicted. I thought that Goldberg was going to be number 30, and then he was going to win. And I had a theory that Miz was going to try to cash in on somebody, and we're going to get bullied by Brock Lesnar, and we're going to wind up with Goldberg Lesnar at Mania. Ooh. That being said, I am glad that didn't happen. But as far as the outcome goes, I suspected they were wanting to do Roman against Edge at Mania. I didn't think though that they would have Edge win the Rumble to do it. So I was very surprised, and it was a pleasant surprise actually. But as far as who did I expect going in, my friends and I all had a pool going in. We picked a random number, we picked a surprise, and we picked our winner. My winner, I picked Daniel Bryan, and I'm glad I was wrong on that one. But this begs the question, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. We would have had a problem if Goldberg had won it because he's a part-timer.
I know you're going to keep going.
What's the difference with Edge?
Okay, I'm really glad you went there. I'm really, really glad you went there because that was a thought running right through my mind. And we're going to sit there and sound like complete hypocrites if we bash on Bill Goldberg for, coming out of retirement, once a year and cashing in and getting these title shots and winning. There's one of two things.
Hey, Art here talking. Number one, I was completely against Edge winning the Royal Rumble. The only reason why I am for him winning the Royal Rumble is because that's the one accolade that he hasn't had as a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's been King of the Ring, World Champ, US Champ, IC Champ, like everything except a Royal Rumble winner. And that kind of solidified his Hall of Fameness. But as far as him actually winning, I didn't like it at all. I felt like with momentum on the side of three superstars, they could have really made something big. Three superstars that I'm referring to is Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso, and Cesaro.
All right. Real quick, I'm going to get to what Joe's point, Art. Then I want to throw a few things at you because you brought up some names there, and I want to counterbalance that here.
Yeah.
Bill Goldberg had his feel-good moment back in 2016, right? Bill Goldberg came back. He feel-good moment when he squashed. He wanted to have that one more run in the sun in front of his kid. His kid never got to see him wrestle. He got in there. He squashed Brock, who was just fresh off ending the streak, which I hated at the time. I hated it. You guys know that. But okay, that made sense. Goldberg got one more run at the sun, and I thought that was going to be him going into the sunlight, him getting his closure. Edge never did. Edge never got his closure. This, I think, is his closure. And as Art put, he wins a Royal Rumble. He goes to WrestleMania. And here's the thing. I don't think he's winning the title, nor do I think he should. And I know, whoa, what's the point? What's the point? Look, did Rocky Balboa beat Antonio Tarver, whatever the hell the character's name is, Mason Line Dixon in Rocky Balboa? Did he win that fight?
Actually, in an alternate ending, yes, he did.
Not in the alternate ending. I know he beat him in the alternate ending, but the ending we saw in the movie theater that the Universal people saw, he lost, right? But he won. He still won, even though he didn't win the fight itself, right? I think that's Edge. I think he gets his closure. The guy was never expected to wrestle again. He comes back, after his career was ended. He defies expectations, has that real solid feud with Orton. I mean, that feud was solid. That feud was one of the better feuds I've seen in 2020. Gets hurt again.
It was.
You're thinking to yourself, man, how much more can this guy take? He comes back from a serious injury, gets hurt again, comes back, goes coast to coast in the Royal Rumble, wins a Royal Rumble. He doesn't need to win the title to solidify his story. And I don't think he's going to.
No, I just felt like the Royal Rumble was just another accolade for him to put a notch on his belt. Because when you think about it, most of the Hall of Famers have won the Royal Rumble.
Sure. And you're not wrong with that. Most of them have. He never did. And, if this solidifies that, okay. The three names you mentioned, Daniel Bryan, I wouldn't have been opposed to that because I think he's in the twilight of his career too. I think he's wrapping things up, and I think that I think same story, same script with Edge. Put him in Edge's place. I think the end result is the same with him and Reigns. I think Reigns retains at Mania, but the story's still the same.
Yeah, because I still still to this day, I get nervous when I watch Daniel Bryan take a bump or a drop kick. I'm still nervous that his neck is just going to snap at any moment.
I agree.
And I'm starting to feel the same way with Edge.
Yeah, I mean, neither of these guys have nothing.
But I think Edge really proved that he's pretty durable. I mean, he was number 1 in this Royal Rumble, and he went the hour.
Yeah, he's only the third person to win as number 1 in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, like stamina-wise, great. As JP said earlier, and do not get me wrong when I say this at all. I am the biggest Edge head, but I don't think I would have had him going for a title at WrestleMania, though, to be honest.
But JP just said he doesn't need to win. It's just he's wrapping things up in his own way.
Yeah, I get that.
He gets his closure. He gets his closure this way. Rocky Balboa got his closure by getting in there again, fighting for the championship. He didn't win. He didn't need to. And that's why I'm okay with this. That's why I don't hate on this. That's why I think this is nice. And, him going 60 minutes, holy crap, you never would have seen that. You never would have expected that, ever. I mean, but as for the other two guys you mentioned, Art, I know you mentioned Cesaro. And Cesaro, I think there needed more of a build for Cesaro. I think there needed more of a build.
Well, yeah.
Because I think it would have been a little bit.
They did start pretty good with the wins over Daniel Bryan, the win over Jey Uso. I mean, he had momentum on his side coming into this Royal Rumble.
I thought Cesaro was going to win the Royal Rumble myself, because as I said, as Art said, he had momentum and things seem to be looking up for people. So if there was ever a night to bet on Cesaro, I thought tonight would have been it.
Who was the third one you mentioned? No,
he beat Jey Uso. He beat Daniel Bryan.
Right, but the third
Jey Uso, Daniel Bryan, and Cesaro.
Okay.
And Jey Uso wasn't even in it.
Cesaro, yeah, that's a question. There's a few names that weren't in it that I want to discuss here in a couple minutes that I didn't like about this Royal Rumble. There was a few things I really didn't like about this, and it's not Edge winning. There were a few things I loved, but I'll get into those in a couple minutes here. Cesaro, they started to give him that push, just like Nakamura. I just don't feel like it's been long enough, if you catch what I'm saying. I feel like this is the Kofi Kingston shotgun push. I feel like this is the Otis shotgun push. I feel like this goes back to the let's throw darts at the wall and see what sticks this week push. And look, Cesaro is so far overdue for a world title push that it's not even funny. If I was booking WWE, Cesaro would be on title reign 10 or 11 by now. But I'm not. And the thing is, this guy he's one of those ones. We're not talking me, you, Joe, and Matt here, where we know how damn good this guy is. We know. We've known for years.
Right. He's our favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler.
Right. But we're talking about the ham and egger on Twitter. That's name is, Roman Reigns fan 17526. It's got a picture of it's got a picture of the Universal title as his picture on Twitter, or douchebag
those guys.
Douchebag 52. That's favorite two wrestlers are Charlotte Flair and whoever the top dog is at the moment. John Cena, right? Who he goes with the flavor of the moment, right? Those are ones they also got to appeal to, and I just feel like Cesaro, they've missed the mark with him so much. It's like Ziggler. If they tried to push him in the past, and it didn't work because we've been programmed to look at these people in such a way that people like us would be 6 feet deep into the stew if they gave him the push. But would anybody else? Would the marks be into it? And I don't want to call them marks, but would that demographic of the fan base that would they follow it the same way? I don't know. I
get what you're saying, because Cesaro was kind of at his peak when he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and they stuck him with Paul Heyman, and all Paul Heyman talked about was The Undertaker getting beat at WrestleMania by Brock.
Exactly, and that there was your picture perfect opportunity to give this guy the moon push, and they didn't. And that's just what it maddened me how badly they've misused this guy. But unfortunately, I think you have such a window of opportunity to make people the guy, And once it's gone, it's very hard to go back to. Jay,
Right. Jay,
Jay,
he wasn't even in it.
See, that's another question thing. And I got an affinity for those Uso boys. I'm not going to lie to you. Gabriel Andrews can tell you, Gabriel Andrews will understand why. I have nothing but love for those Uso boys. Right now, I think Jay is great at what he's doing. I think Jay is a story that we can revisit. I think Jay is somebody that, I think that story still needs to be told, if that makes sense. I think there's a lot of story left to be told in that tale before we make Jay that guy. Does that make sense?
I think the problem
at first I only saw him as a tag team wrestler, and at this point I can actually see him as a singles competitor.
See, that's where I think the problem lies here is the fact that they're not pushing him. That suggests to me that he kind of has a glass ceiling, that they will not elevate him too much above his brother.
But they
So you think that they're intentionally holding him back for the purpose of his brother coming back and them being a tag team again?
I think that's a strong possibility. Again, I don't agree with it, but it's what makes sense in my head. But then again, a lot of things make sense in my head that won't for other people.
Here's a 50-50 question I want to pose to you. Okay? Let's hypothetically say that is true, and that's why they're doing it. Now, I'm looking at this in a different way. That eventually Jay's going to get sick and tired of being Roman's. There's a word I'm looking for that I can't say on this
lapdog.
Thank you. He's getting tired of being. He's going to get tired of being Roman's lapdog, his lackey. And he's going to say enough, and we're going to say, all right, Roman's going to be like, fine, you beat me, you're set. You beat me, you get the title, you're set free. And Jay beats him then. To where enough of the story's been told to where he gets a push, he's the man. But if they do that, then you bring up a good point, Joe. What do they do with Jimmy when he comes back? So it's a 50-50 call on that. It is a 50-50 call because, there is the other Uso to think about here. And you've looked at these guys as a tag team for so long that it's almost hard to see one without the other.
But when you look at Vince McMahon's track record, this guy breaks up all the tag teams. So I'm just waiting on the point where they have them turn on each other.
Think on this as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Broke up the Hardy. He broke up Edge and Christian. He broke up all the brother tag teams, and in terrible fashion too. So if Jay does get to the point where he's looked at as a singles competitor, and Jimmy comes back and doesn't want to follow Roman's lead, somebody's got to put him in line.
Okay, so how about this perspective? Jay gets his freedom, whatever. Jimmy comes back. Last time we seen Jimmy was that that ending at Hell in a Cell, which also was storytelling genius. We all think Jimmy's going to help Jay out, but boom, suddenly Jimmy takes on the role of Jay. That could work. Joe, I know you wanted to chime in on something here. We've got about 5 minutes left.
Both scenarios work. Yeah, sure. Both scenarios work, but both of them have the outcome of one of them being a singles competitor.
But there has to be a story, though. That's the whole.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was simply going to say you're running the risk of what happened at the 1991 Royal Rumble, I believe it was, when Virgil turned on the $1 Million Man. That got the pop of the night. But was it because people were behind Virgil that much, or because they hated DiBiase that much? My point is, would Jay be riding off his own talent or off of the heat that Roman has? That could kill his career.
It's hard to really make that determination now, though, because we don't have asses in the seats. We're going off the Thunderdome crowd reaction, and that's as manipulated as a Kardashian relationship. You know what I mean?
I get that.
Those pops are just artificial.
We got 2 minutes left on this, but what I'm saying, though, is 2 minutes in the segment is Jay seemed to be getting fairly over with the crowd when he was challenging Roman before he became the fall in line guy. Again, that could be manipulated. That's Thunderdome crowds. I mean, we really have no way of knowing any of the current state of the environment. But again, we got 2 minutes left. I'm just going to say this, and we'll give the grades when we come back. I love the Edge and Christian thing in the middle of the ring, the genuine emotion there. That to me was a highlight of the night. The guy I think that they could have won the Rumble, and I would have hated things. Build up. Big E, and you have him get eliminated by Amos or Onus or Omos or whatever the hell it. What the hell is that? What are you? I mean, come on, man. Some of this stuff is just ridiculous. You know, I know Omos is. What are you doing? What are you doing? For real? You have Omos eliminate Big E.
But, and he eliminated
Ray.
Rey Mysterio too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that part didn't sit well with me either, because Omos isn't even a member of this match.
No, since when? Yeah, since when do outside managers get to eliminate people? That's news to me. I don't ever.
This year, the most got eliminated by somebody.
This Enos eliminated 3 people, or Omos, or whatever the hell his name is. He's eliminated 3 people, and he's not even part of the match.
I think this
by
year,
the way,
most people got eliminated by somebody that wasn't even in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice job. And by the way, way to build up Dominic Mysterio. You have the Easter Bunny or the Cadbury Bunny or whatever the hell his name is last longer than Dominic Mysterio. Good booking there, fellas. Anyway, guys, we got to go back to a break. We got to go to our last break. When we come back, we're going to discuss our WrestleMania plans and wrap this, put a bow on it. You're listening to the JJAM session, the Jam session here on Red Gull Media.
You're listening to only the best internet radio station in the world. No, the universe.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Go Talk Radio.
The hottest new talents in pro wrestling today are in the Arizona Wrestling Federation. Subscribe today for all the action. YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling AZ. Catch the excitement.
Previously on Broken Link Radio.
Jim, do you have any idea what's going on with Kim Jong-un right now? Everything's cool.
Oh, all good.
He was hiding from coronavirus. As an intelligence officer, if you can't tell if somebody's dead or alive, that's pretty rough. That's a big miss.
That's pretty big. So he's going to get anti-aircraft artillery, but it's based on like a group of Jewish guy or like a Jewish group of, I don't know if they're spies or what. It was a tab that I created. And
Broken Link Radio.
The call to serve. It has no sound, yet I have heard it in the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. The call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it in the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy, a global force for good.
You're listening to RGTR, Red Go Talk Radio.
Pro Wrestling Jam session here on Red Gull Media. I was going to make a joke, and this is why Matt is laughing here. I was going to make a joke and tried to make a comment about the Robin Hood stock debacle with GameStop. And then I said GameStop stock. And then I said a 4-letter word that I'm not supposed to say on here. Luckily, this is recorded, and we've got the best stuff. We got the best producer in the business, Gabe Andrews, taking care of all the fun stuff. So there's never a dull moment in here. We are through GameStop stock on Robin Hood. Yeah, I got it right for the 5th time. It is Pro Wrestling Jam session. And we are going to wrap things up and put a nice, tidy little bow on this Royal Rumble wrap-up show here on this first day of February. God, this year's already off to a rapid and roaring start. But I think overall it was a great show. We didn't get to give a grade to the last Royal Rumble segment. One thing I want to bring up though, is I said the biggest thing that we didn't see at the Royal Rumble were some of the names that weren't in it. I think we went over it a little bit last segment though, but there were just a lot of names that weren't included in this. that I think that the ones we saw we could have done without. I mean, yeah, it was cool seeing Carlito back again, no question about it. It was great seeing Christian back in there, and that segment with that segment with Christian and Edge, where they had the raw, genuine emotion. I think that was the highlight of the night for me, because that emotion was completely real for Edge. That was his. I mean, he was as emotional about that as he was winning the Rumble himself. And he was in that boat last year himself, where he made his grand return. I mean, there are moments like that to where you love seeing as a wrestling fan. That I'm cool with. Could we have done without Hurricane Helms? I mean, no disrespect, and I'm a Hurricane mark. I love Hurricane, but could we have done could we have done without seeing Hurricane come in there and get dumped out in 15 seconds? I mean, could we have done without? Give me some other names that were in there. I mean, Kane was cool for what it was worth, but if you ask me, do I want Kane or do I want Keith Lee? I mean, and I know Keith Lee had COVID, but you catch my point of view. There were guys that really should have been in this match that weren't.
Yeah, I get that, JP, but it's like this for the Rumble every year, brother. There's always surprises and everything. That's one of the things that makes the Rumble so exciting. You never know who's going to be there. And I get that, a lot of these other guys, they should have been in there. Guys like Jey Uso. I didn't see Apollo Crews, I don't think.
Yeah.
Guys like that definitely should have been in there, but I definitely enjoyed the surprises too. It's one of the things that makes the Rumble so interesting.
That is true. And you never know what to expect or who to expect in the Royal Rumble. At least we didn't get Drew Carey this year. At least we didn't get any.
Yeah.
we had our wasted moment with D-list celebrities when they had Peter Rosenberg win the 24/7 belt, which, by the way, there's another belt. I talked about belts that should be dissolved. Can we please take that big hunk of crap and just, I don't care what you do with it. You can throw it to the bottom of the Pacific, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean. You can serve it to freaking alligators as a meal. You can serve it to Nia Jax for a meal. Hell, you can give it to Jodi Arias as a wedding ring. I don't care what you do with the damn thing. This thing jumped the shark so many times that it might as well have a job at SeaWorld as Shamu's trainer. This thing is just worthless. It's foolish at this time. You got Peter Rosenberg winning the belt. I mean, when JBL said this is the worst ever, I mean, come on. JBL worked an angle with the Boogeyman, for God's sakes, and he's calling this the worst ever. I mean, that ought to tell you how bad this was.
I mean, I love R-Truth, and I think he's a phenomenal, talent and everything, but even he can't make this belt entertaining nowadays, and that's saying a lot.
It's like who all they had in there as a 24/7 belt. You had Gronk. What a great investment that was, by the way. Gronkowski. He was there long enough for Tom Brady to go to Tampa Bay, and he signed with them. And so this belt changes hands every week. It's just it's not the hardcore title. It's foolish. It's lame. It was cute at first. It lived its shelf life. Now we got Peter Rosenberg as a champ. I mean, come on. Who are you gonna have next? Mickey Mouse? I mean, we're out of the
ideas. I think this might have
give me no ideas. Well, that's like I can't wait till WrestleMania. It's going to be at Tampa Stadium. They're going to have some jackass dressed as Baco Bruce come out and pin R-Truth for the champ. I mean, that's just all we need. Maybe I'll have Shamu's handler come out and beat. I mean, it's served its purpose. Time to put this thing out of its misery and all of us.
But Truth would be fine without it.
No,
that's the only reason why I keep it around. So he's got something to do.
Well, hell, I would. I think he's all right. I mean, the guy's only been, he's only been 24/7 champ more times, and he's been champ more times than the Kardashian sisters have had basketball players. So I mean, I think that he'll be fine. I think
he's up to like 50. I think he's like 52 times 24/7 champion. That is unreal.
Well,
that's a stat.
He keeps this up. I mean, he's a couple away from a number of times that we've seen Kim Kardashian's rear end on TV. I mean, so maybe he's trying to break that record. I don't know. Well, let's talk about something that's not going to completely make my stomach churn, like Kim Kardashian's rear end on TV or this 24/7 about WrestleMania coming out. Obviously, we're almost the start to WrestleMania season. We pretty much had one match we think set in stone tonight. Edge versus and have him go in there with McIntyre, which I just don't see happening. But what are some of the other matches you guys in your ideal WrestleMania? What do you think could happen? Matt, I'll start with you. And what do you want to see happen at WrestleMania? What are some of the matches first you see happen?
I think Sasha and Bianca Belair is pretty much locked in there. I don't see Bianca going to Raw again. So this match is definitely one that I'm looking forward to. And I'm saying it now. I'm the biggest Sasha mark in the world. I could probably not care less who wins this match, but I know this match is going to be amazing. I can just feel it. It's going to live up to all the hype it's going to get, and I just cannot wait to see it.
The question is it do you have baby versus baby here? I mean, do you put these two as baby faces, or do you turn Sasha to her more natural heel for this? What do you see happening with this match?
We talked about this on the Sons of Legends tonight. WrestleMania is one place where two baby faces can collide, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you got Hogan and you got Warrior. You got Rock and Goldberg. I think they were both faces. Wait, no, it's not. It was Rock and Hogan. They're both faces. You got AJ and Shinsuke like a few years ago. Coming into it, they were both faces.
Right, absolutely. So you think they both stay faces in this one? And it's more of a passing of the torch than anything else? You there, brother? We're facing some little bit of technical difficulties here. Obviously it's fun times. Technical can be fun. Joe, while Matt's getting that solved away, what are some of the matches you foresee happening at Mania besides? I guess a big one I want to throw out there is, we've got obviously two that look locked in stone. As Matt mentioned, it's looking like it's going to be Sasha versus Bianca. Roman versus Edge seems like set in stone. What about
Roman and Edge?
Roman and Edge. So that one's set in stone. Matt.
Yeah.
What do you
think Roman and Edge is going to happen?
Yep. What about McIntyre? What's your thoughts on what do you think they do with him?
Big E. I'm wondering who's going to defend the Intercontinental title against. It's looking like right now it's going to be Apollo Crews, though. It looks like Big E and Apollo at WrestleMania.
I'd like that because I think Apollo is one of those guys that I think he's been, he had the U.S. title run, which was sort of a ho-hum moment, but I think he's being grossly misused on the main roster. I think he's been for a while. I think that'd be a nice feud with those two to clash of the Titans, so to speak.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
Jimmy Usos at WrestleMania. I wouldn't be surprised by it. If Jimmy comes back.
Yeah. And they go after the tag belt, you think, or?
No, I think that they might go 1-on-1 at WrestleMania. Maybe Jimmy comes back not with the Roman thing. And Jay's got to put him in his place, as they say.
That makes sense. That would, I could see that happening too. I could definitely see that happening. Joe, you were going to throw on a point there?
I'm just trying to use process of elimination here to figure out who McIntyre would face at WrestleMania. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say maybe Lashley.
That would be decent. Once his story with Riddle runs its course, I think that would be good.
Precisely. They might actually pull the trigger, put the U.S. title on Riddle, and then move Lashley on to face McIntyre. Because look at the momentum the Hurt Business has had as of late.
Yeah. So then the question I'm going to pose to you there is, if they do this match, do you pull the trigger and put the belt on Bobby Lashley?
No, I don't think you would, because Drew's too hot at this point to do that.
Okay, because the reason I ask this is I think every year, well, most years I should say, there's at least one major title change at WrestleMania. I think we all agree that Edge probably isn't beating Reigns. That may change though. I mean, they could do the ultimate feel good moment, and Edge's storybook comes full circle, and maybe it does, and he gets the brief title reign and Reigns wins it back.
That's what I see happening. He gets the win over Roman, and then either A, Roman gets it back within a couple of weeks, or B, Edge retires again, or quote retires again, claiming he's come full circle. He won back the title that he never lost. And then since he's still under contract, he disappeared for a little while until someone or something provokes him into coming back.
I could definitely get behind that. You know, I think I might have changed my opinion on Edge winning the Royal Rumble listening to you guys talk about it. You know, I didn't really look at it like, you know, this is a new story he's trying to tell. I just looked at it as Edge moves the rating needle, so they went with him.
Well, make no mistake about it. I mean, that was 50% of what what you believe it is. It's a ratings move, and right now the ratings are
right.
They're taking a nosedive. I mean, the Raw ratings are taking an absolute beating. And part of that is because, I mean, let's be brutally honest here. The booking has been so shaky and so sporadic that, look, you can break the glass and bring every, superstar of yesteryear from the early 2000s, the Attitude Era in the 1990s back all you want. It's not going to matter if the writing continues to stay crappy. I mean, you can bring Edge back.
Yeah.
You could have Stone Cold Steve Austin come out of retirement and wrestle CM Punk for the Universal title at WrestleMania, and it's not going to make a damn bit of difference if they continue to book this sporadically and this poorly like they do. And I don't necessarily blame that all on Vince McMahon. I also blame it on, we live in a generation of fans that expect immediate gratification, where if we don't get it right now, we're gonna boycott, we're gonna riot, we're gonna do all this other nonsense and complain and piss and moan and bellyache on social media. But at the same time, I look at some of the booking, I look at some of the writing, I look at some of these 3-hour Raws, and it at best on a good night it puts me to sleep. At a bad night, it's what on God's green earth are you doing? And that's the nicest thing I'm going to say. So, I mean, Edge was definitely a pull for the ratings, just like having Bill Goldberg wrestle McIntyre for the belt was. But I think that there is at least more to this story than we are so desperate for ratings that we're dipping into the way back machine. You know what I mean?
I can get that. Hey, I have a question. Okay, so most likely the first event, the first WWE event on a Peacock is going to be WrestleMania. You think that's another reason why they were pulling out Edge and all the other big names to look good for their new network?
I think that's a big reason. Yes.
Yep, 100%. I mean, let's stop and think about this for a second, okay? And I think this is the start of many. This isn't the last time I think you're going to be seeing dealings between WWE, Vince McMahon, and NBC. Let's be blunt. Vince McMahon isn't getting any younger. He's not. His brother Rod just passed away last week. You know what I mean? Vince, I don't think Vince is going to want to do this forever. And I think he's been showing signs of that. If you really want to be honest with yourselves, going all the way back to the late 1980s when he tried to make movies, when he tried to do that no holds barred debacle, when he tried to do, the failed bodybuilding nonsense, what was it, IBF or whatever the hell, Joe, when they brought Luger in.
That was, I believe, the IBF, yes.
IBF, when they tried the bodybuilding thing, then XFL 1 and 2, I mean, all these D-level movies, I think Vince has been looking for a way out for a while. And as he gets older and older, I think he's looking for a full way out. But I think he wants to put his family in a position where, although, look, the McMahons, they've got enough money to where Trips and Steph could run it for 2 generations. But I don't think he wants it to be to the point to where they have to worry. I think NBC coming in and this Peacock deal is the start of many moving and shaking deals we're going to see over the next couple of years with the McMahons and NBC. And I'll let you fill in the blanks of what I'm talking about there. And you guys can figure out where I'm going with this. It shouldn't take 2 and 2 to make 4. But I think this deal with Peacock, WrestleMania, their flagship show is, as you adequately put it, Matt, probably going to be the first show we see on Peacock. They're going to want as many movers and shakers as they possibly could get on there, which is why I think even though he lost tonight, I think that's why they brought Bill Goldberg back, which is why I think they had Edge. Part of the reason why they may have had Edge win tonight, that's 50%, 75, maybe 50, maybe 60% of the reason. Don't be surprised if we see You Can't See Me back before too long, John Cena. I think they're going to throw every duck at the wall they can to get The Rock for one more match. I think you're going to see them try to go. We're going to try to see them go. Tommy over tea kettle, for lack of a better term. There's another phrase I use for that, but I can't say it on here. You're going to see them go Tommy over tea kettle to try to bring in as many stars as they can for this WrestleMania event. And being it's on NBC affiliated Peacock, they're going to have to.
Yeah, most definitely. Nobody can blame them for wanting to put their best foot forward, and even if they weren't starting a new network, WrestleMania is the event where they do bring all the moneymakers, as they call them. They say it all the time online. WrestleMania isn't really for the ones that watch every week. It's where they kind of cater to the casuals.
Let's be frank. They know Joe, Matt. They know people like you and I are going to watch and complain or not complain no matter what.
Right. They know we're going to watch regardless, but they're trying to get people that don't usually watch.
Exactly. And that's where Mania's, that's what Mania's for. And that's what this Peacock deal, I think, is going to, be. And I think you're going to start to see more and more of these names start to matriculate their way through the rankings here in the next couple of weeks that are going to make WrestleMania paydays. The question is, do you see The Undertaker shadow the grass and come out of retirement for a match at Mania?
I hope not. I really do. Like, I love Taker as much as the next person, but he's retired. Like he said, he's finished like twice now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He left his boots and his hat and his gloves and his coat in the ring. And the Boneyard match is just, in my opinion, the perfect way for him to go out. Like, it'll never get any better than that for him. Not at this stage, in my opinion. Like, I think he should just kind of call it there.
I mean, he even said in the last ride that if he felt like he was becoming a caricature of himself, he was going to retire. But that being said, at this stage in his career, I don't think he could top the Boneyard match.
Yeah.
I mean, he could if they do another cinematic match. If Undertaker does another match, which he shouldn't, leave it go. Leave it go. Leave it go. You don't need to continue, because the thing is and it's this way in MMA, it's this way in all sports. Let's be honest. These guys think they're at the end of the line. They go out there and they have one more great match, one more great fight, one more great season. Oh, I got 2 or 3 more in me. Suddenly 2 or 3 more turns into 2 or 3 more years, and their legacy's not what it used to be. You know what I mean? And you can never take the legacy away from these guys. I mean, when I think of The Undertaker, when any of us think of The Undertaker, we should think of his series of matches with Shawn Michaels out here in Arizona and at 25 and 26. We should think of a guy that was handed a garbage gimmick, that should have gone to Wrestle Crap's Hall of Fame. 99% of the other people in this business would have died a slow, painful death with it, no pun intended, and been gone and forgotten about in 6 months tops, and had a 30-year career with it that spanned through multiple eras. This guy started out in the Hogan era, wound up going through the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression era, the Cena era, up until now. I mean, that's what we should remember him for. We shouldn't remember him for the Saudi Arabia debacles. We shouldn't remember him for, the crap at the end of his career. And I hate to call it crap, but It's not by his fault of his own, because let's be honest, by this time, when he was 40, 50, 52, 53 years old, you're talking a guy whose both knees had been replaced, his hips had been replaced. The guy had been killing himself since 1989. What more could you expect out of him? Yet we have a fickle fan base that expect these guys that kill themselves for 30 years to still be as spry as they were when they were 25. And that's unfortunate. But to me, we should remember Taker for all the good he did for this business, not for the Goldberg debacle in Saudi Arabia, or the debacle with Kane and Triple H and Shawn Michaels in Saudi Arabia. And that's why the Boneyard match was perfect. He could go out with that. Go ahead.
Pretty much the greatest character of all time. That's his legacy. Really it is.
Protected character of all time.
You go down the greatest character, the greatest pro wrestling character of all time to me. And I think that we should try to hang on to that. Like that's the legacy, as they say.
Oh, we got about 5 minutes left, but let me ask you this. Anybody that's listening to this question, can you name me another wrestler that can honestly go out there and say they shared the ring with Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, John Cena, and Roman Reigns? Good luck. Good luck. You won't. Go ahead. Were you saying someone else? Other than Taker, that's it. Dude, most of the guys that Undertaker shared the ring with when he started in WWF are dead now.
Flair did. That's about it.
Yeah, Flair. Did Flair hasn't shared the ring with the modern generation, has he?
Roman and them.
Not as an active
Did he have matches with Roman?
Who? What? What, Matt?
Did Ric Flair have matches with Roman Reigns? I don't think he had matches with him.
No. I meant as in Ben had an interaction with.
Oh, sure.
Sure,
yeah, Flair has certainly shared. In that circumstance, you could say Hulk Hogan has too. They've shared the ring with multiple different generations. But in this circumstance, I'm talking like actually got in there and mixed it up with these guys. And with a character like that, let's be honest. And we live in a generation. I know there's some heat on Undertaker now with people in the business because of what he said on Joe Rogan's show. All right. And to some degree, I get it. This is a different lifetime and a different business as it was back in the 1990s. It's a different world than it was in the 1990s. Right. Guys aren't going to want to do whiskey and play. They're not going to want to do whiskey shots all night anymore. They're going to want to go play their Xbox Ones. I get that, but at the same time, all these people that are getting really upset about it, understand what the man was saying. He wasn't disparaging you for and all these overreactions I'm seeing online. Oh, he just wants them all to be like they were, where they're all, shooting steroids and wind up dead at 41 years. No, that's not what he means. Okay. And I know everybody takes everything out of proportions nowadays and twists it to, that's not what he means. But what he means is, look, nowadays you've got all these guys that go on podcasts and when things don't go exactly as they want, when they're stuck with a bad character, instead of making it work like Taker did and stretching that over 3 generations, a gimmick that should have never lasted. And he made it work. He had a legendary, iconic career that spanned, again, with a character that should have died a slow, painful death quickly. He lasted 30 years with a dead man, a zombie gimmick. Okay, if that man can make it happen with will and determination, there's nothing Vince McMahon is going to give you nowadays that you can't make work. That said, I know it's a different time period now, and there's 50 writers, and Vince is more power hungry than ever. But keep in mind, Taker also came into the business where there were many power players. Hulk Hogan, may I say Hulk Hogan? Randy Savage had a ton of clout. Believe me, so he's dealt with all the politics you did too. Some of these guys just need to stop and listen nowadays. That's the problem. Some of these guys, and I have a ton of respect for anybody that steps in the ring nowadays. Anybody that ever stepped in the ring. If you've got the cojones to get in there and do this, you're a tougher human being than most. But don't take what Undertaker's saying as an insult.
Absolutely.
It's not intended to be.
Let me add on to that by saying that, yeah, they do need to stop and listen, but they also need to be careful who they listen to.
Well, let me just throw an example on there. Okay, I don't know if you guys do Twitter or not. Have you seen half the crap that Joey Janela's saying on there?
No, I don't do Twitter.
Actually, I was referring more to the stuff Ryback's been saying, but
Ryback.
Lord.
we got a couple more minutes here. We got a couple more minutes. I'm going to wrap up with this Ryback thing, but that's another thing. It's Joey Janela, okay, was outright, and I'll send it to you guys. Look up Janela's Twitter if he hasn't deleted it by now. The stuff he was saying was outright mocking and ridiculing The Undertaker, and it was what a condescending, no, that's not what I mean tone. He was being sarcastic. And look, Joey Janela, I have a ton of respect for, right? Joey Janela has done some good things for this business. He has. His style's certainly not for everybody, and I'm not going to go full-blown Jim Cornette on you guys. And I respect Cornette too, but I'm not going to go full Cornette on you. I'm not. Joey Janela's made a niche for he's made a niche for himself in his business. If you can do that, more power to you. But Janela mocking The Undertaker, just stop. Just stop. Don't. Who are any of you to mock The Undertaker? Without that man breaking himself in half, none of us have a platform. Not one of us. You don't like what The Undertaker said? Get your ass off Twitter, quit the passive-aggressive tweets, and go talk to the man. Reach out to the man yourself and say, hey, how about a little clarification? Can you verify this for me? He's a good enough man. I'm sure he's a man enough to pull you aside and say, yeah, this is what I meant. And he'll hash it out with you. Instead of going on social media, looking for gratification and looking to have your back patted, go on there and putting these passive-aggressive tweets to insult the man. Go on there and talk to him. That's what he's talking about, where he said, I miss the old generation. These people would rather get on there and do passive-aggressive tweets and sit down and talk things out with people. That's my problem. Then you got guys like Joey Janela, who when it comes to The Undertaker, couldn't draw two dimes. He couldn't draw a dime if you gave him two nickels when it comes to The Undertaker. Who the frick can? That's not a knock on Janela. He didn't outdraw The Undertaker, but you know what? At the same time, The Undertaker, 30 years, sit down and take a note. Take notes. You don't have to agree with everything he did. You don't have to kiss his ass and say, hey, I don't agree with 100%. That's human. But don't mock the man. Have a little respect.
Yeah, that's true. Most definitely.
Totally.
Anybody in this line of work really should have that level of respect for The Undertaker.
Joe, we got about 1 minute left. Give us your thoughts on Ryback. We got about a minute to wrap things up.
Thoughts on Ryback? A guy who, I think he's disappointed that he didn't get a bigger run in the business that he thinks he deserves, and I think he's bitter. And that's a problem I see with a lot of guys who don't get the push or get the money that they think they should have had. They become bitter. Hell, to a lesser or greater extent, depending on who you're asking, Bret Hart's become kind of jaded and bitter over the years.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing with Ryback and this whole thing with Ryback and Mark Henry. Quite frankly, it's Henry's got a point. Henry has a great point. Don't sit there and call this business fake. Like Booker T said, anything that puts a roof over my kid's head and food on their table is not fake to me. Don't call it fake. Respect you, Ryback. You got a ton of respect for you. We're not foolish, okay? This isn't 1985 anymore, where we're jaded, where the curtain hasn't been pulled back. Okay, the curtain was pulled back a long time ago. Okay, have enough respect for the forefathers of this business, though. And understand that a lot of people made a lot of money off of this business and continue to do so, to at least respect the integrity of it, to not basically sit there and treat it like it's a complete afterthought. It's fake. It's a prop. Don't ask Darren Drozdov how fake this is. That's all I got to say about that for this topic. Hey guys, got any final words before we call it quits for tonight? Because I know we're about up against it, but I've enjoyed this.
No, man. Thanks for having me here.
Just thanks for having me on, brother.
No, I've had a great time, John. Had a great time. Well, Matt, give us a quick plug for where we can check out Sons of Legends at.
Sons of Legends. It could you find it on Spotify or the Anchor app. Pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. We do a new one every week. A lot of people that come on or that have listened have really enjoyed it. So it's a pretty cool listen.
And Joe, anything you got to plug out real quick?
Nah, man, I'm good.
All right, last thing, folks, we got a big event coming up with the AWF. February 13th, the new AWF Arena in Phoenix. Big time event. We got Alex Hammerstone, man, the sensation that's taken the nation by storm. You see him in MLW every Wednesday. Well, he continues to dominate the business. He continues to make everybody stand on notice, and he's going big time places. Well, he continues to dominate the Arizona scene. He takes on Damian Drake, another world traveling superstar who's going big places. You want to check that out the 13th. Also, AWF heavyweight champ Parada is going to be defending his championship on that evening. Mr. Anders, I know you got real quick. You told me who he's defending about, and it just slipped my mind. He's got a big title defense coming up that night, doesn't he? Parada?
Yes, he does.
Who will Parada be? Who will be trying to steal the belt from Parada, and who will he be squaring a square circle with? Sharing a square circle with.
He is going to be challenged by Watson. He is
Watson, the former AWF heavyweight champion, trying to become a two-time AWF heavyweight champion. Watson takes on Parada. Those of you not equipped, Watson that are just getting tuned into the AWF, if you're listening, you're probably familiar. Those of you that are not watching, was actually AWF champ for a little but under a year, Gabe. He was a champ he had a pretty successful title run though before, then actually lost to Safafat too. Did some world traveling, continued to improve his skills, came back bigger, badder, and better than ever before. Now he's going to try to become a two-time AWF heavyweight champion on the 13th of February at the new AWF Arena. So be sure to check it out. Tickets on sale now on the Arizona Wrestling Federation Facebook page or on their website, Arizona Wrestling Federation. Check it out. Best wrestling promotion in the state of Arizona and anywhere else for that matter. Gabe, thanks for having us on and keeping us up and running for this last couple hours. And
thank you guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this maiden voyage of the Pro Wrestling Jam session. For Gabriel Anders, for Joe Violet, for Matt Lindsay, and Art Quinn, I am JP Steele. We will see you next time for more madness, more insanity, and the only radio show that makes GameStop stock look slippery. We'll see you again soon.